Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, your host, and today I'm here with Anna Sneed. And she has a fantastic topic that nobody really talks about because it's one of those things that I don't know. I remember growing up and my sister used to always make fun of me. Oh, when you start your period, you're just going to be this horrible person. So I learned to never tell anybody I was ever on my period because I didn't want to be made fun of by my sister. She'd probably kill me for telling this story. But because of that, I never talked about it ever. And then I have girls who they're in their 20s now, and that's all they talk about when they're on their cycles. And I'm like, this is so weird to me. It's just something you never did growing up. And so, Anna, I would love for you to introduce yourself, and then we'll talk about the topic that nobody talks about.
Oh my gosh. Well, I talk about it all day, every day. So I'm so excited to be here. But I was not always this way. I was raised by an army man and had 3 brothers. There was no period talk happening in my home. So my inner child is happy now that I'm talking about periods all day long, and we're kind of reclaiming our superpowers.
Right.
But my name is Anna Sneed. I am the COO at The Agenda Period. We are a period tracking app that teaches you how to sync your life to your entire cycle, because we are like a different person every week. And once we realize how to tap into each one of our identities, life just opens up. And so I was an educator for 16 years. I taught high school, and I was a cheerleading coach and then a principal, and kind of branched out, left public education and started coaching. And every time I had a coaching client that was making a big decision or having big feelings about something, I would ask, where are you in your cycle? And the common thread was nobody talked about this stuff. Nobody talked to us in school about it. You had that lame class where I'm old. They wheeled in the TV and set it up and showed you this picture of your body, and it kind of looked like a cow's head, and they gave you period products and said, don't talk to the boys. And that was it. And so after doing that deep dive, I realized, okay, more of us need to know what's happening with our body. So
I agree.
Period it came.
And I think because I'm that type of person, I can tell any little change in my body. So I always could tell when I was ovulating. I almost feel like I could, and people are going to think I'm weird, but it's true. I could almost feel the egg dropping.
Yes.
Pain, right?
Yes. Alex, our CEO, she has ovulation pain and she can feel the burst. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's okay. I'm glad I'm not the only person. And so, I didn't really need to have contraceptives because I knew, but I never ever thought about tracking my cycle. Because I just tried to not be that emotional person, I think. But when I want to crave a whole bunch of sweets, I'm like, okay, I think it's, I think I'm getting close. And that's how I tracked it, was I wanted a whole bunch of sweets or I'd eat a whole bunch. Now, last year, I actually had a hysterectomy, but my doctor did not take one of my ovaries because he didn't want me to throw me into full menopause. And so I can still it's going into the abyss, because I can feel it, and I can still tell my emotions. I get a little different now because obviously I don't have everything there. But can you just talk to us about the cycle and some of that stuff?
Oh, I would love to. So what we just basic body literacy is all that we really need. And it sounds like you're super in tune with your body and it's changing, which is the first step to normalizing our cycles and our periods. The main thing I want your listeners to understand is that your period is your period and your cycle is the whole 28, 32, 24 event that takes place, and your period is just kind of like your report card. Being a former teacher, once the report card comes out, there's not much you can do to change it. You just got to wait for the next grading cycle to come around. And so our bodies are the same way, and our menstrual phase is the first phase of your menstrual cycle. It's day 1. It's like when you're bleeding and you actually need a period product. It's not like that weird spotting that kind of comes. It's a full bleed. And at this time, your hormones are at their lowest, which means your energy is at its lowest.
Okay.
This is the time to lean into your body calling you to rest. This is the time, like, not to wear a bra or not to wear an underwire bra. Eating warm foods. If you liken your phases of your cycle to the four seasons, this is winter for your body. And so think about the things that you would need in a cold climate. This is what you need during your menstrual phase. You're kind of inside, you're introspective, you're wearing soft, warm, womb-like things. And most of the time we don't feel pulled to do strenuous movement with our body. So moving your body is gentle stretches, maybe a walk, or just not at all. Rest is a very productive activity that sometimes we need permission to do, but here's your permission slip: rest. It's very productive, especially in your menstrual phase. So that's phase one. And that's usually days 1 through 5, depending on how long your bleed is. And once your bleed stops, you kind of enter into your follicular phase. And so if you think about the season that happens after winter, it is spring. And your hormones start rising, your energy starts rising, and you're like returning to yourself. During your menstrual phase is the perfect time, I'm going backwards, to kind of journal and get your thoughts together and vision cast, vision board, thought process. Perfect time to do that during your menstrual phase. Alex, my founder and CEO, we always say, okay, I'm going to bleed on it. And instead of sleeping on it, we bleed on it. You're super intuitive during this time. You understand, you're kind of getting like downloads from your spirit, your energy, the universe, whoever you worship. You seem a little bit more open to receiving during your menstrual phase. So then you move into your follicular phase, which is your inner spring, and you're coming back to life and you're super energetic and your brain is perfectly wired to create and do new things. So this is the perfect time to join a new workout class, take a painting or pottery, something or other. If you have a creative project to do within your business, now's the time that your brain is perfectly wired to do that. So start a new project in your follicular phase. Your hormones and your energy are rising for the next week. This is your follicular phase, and your body is getting ready for the ovulation that we just talked about. So your ovulation, again, the season that comes after spring is summer. And we know when it's summertime, it's time to be outside. We want to be around our friends and our family. Our basal body temperature is warmer during our ovulation phase. Our hormones are at their highest, which means our energy, our mood, our libido, everything is at its highest. So what you need right now in this phase is to connect, to socialize. HIIT and cardio are super easy during your ovulation phase if you're a working out girly. This is the perfect time to ask for that raise, or that piece of jewelry you want from your partner, or to pitch a new idea, or go to networking events when you're ovulating. Your speech is more fluent, you are more magnetic, and you attract the things that you want. So revisiting what you journaled in your menstrual phase is good to do during your ovulation phase, and you can start to call that in and make demands of the people around you. It's not going to feel like a demand, and a lot of times you're just more readily to receive during this phase. So shifting from your ovulation phase into your inner autumn or your inner fall, and this is your luteal phase, and it's 2 weeks long. So your inner fall is your luteal phase, and this starts right after ovulation. Oh, let me go back to ovulation. You're ovulating, like you said, when there's a small window during the month that you can get pregnant, like 4-day window. And when that window opens, when you go to wipe and it feels like a slip and slide down there, you're ovulating, okay? So either have all the sex if you want a baby, or use a barrier method if you don't. But also when we're talking to like our teen clients, this is the time your body is saying, create, make. And we don't want necessarily our teen daughters making babies. And so this is the perfect time for them to make social clubs or build a world on their online gaming or whatever. It's a perfect time to create. It doesn't have to be a baby.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Right? Okay. So then moving into your inner fall, this is your luteal phase. Your hormones you're still kind of riding off of your ovulation energy. So you're still pretty energetic. Your hormones are high. You can lift weights. You can lift heavier weights this week, the first part of your luteal phase, than you probably can throughout the rest of your phase. So if you're weight training, now's the time to like try to hit a personal record with your weights. Your energy is pretty high for a week, and then it starts dropping. So moving is week one is like good strength training, and then week two is probably like a more Pilates yoga type movement flow. And I used to hate the luteal phase. This is the PMS phase, but this is the time that you're the most authentic version of yourself. Like the filter is gone, right? Like you're not trying to be this sweet, people pleasing person. You are very blunt and straight to the point. You know exactly what you want. And your body is saying, wrap it up. Come on, let's finish all the things. And so you may feel like you're rage cleaning, but you're not. You're like literally nesting. You're either going to have a baby in a few weeks, or you're going to be bleeding in a few weeks, and your body's like, wrap everything up, because you're going to need to rest. So this is like, picture this week before your period as your nesting phase, and wrapping all the projects up. Anytime we have a big project to do in our company, in our business, I wait until our luteal phase, my late luteal phase, and I will crank out an online course. I will crank out some social media content, and it feels fun. It feels energizing. And it's just the completion phase. You're super analytical and connected to the end result during your luteal phase. So listen to that, girl. If that week before your period, you're really, really moody and angry and biting everyone's head off, that just means that your boundaries in the other three phases were a little loosey-goosey, because you were creating and you were feeling sexy, and you didn't firm up certain boundaries that now when you're luteal, your body's like, no, what were we thinking? So again, it's just to let you know, next phase, when you're super sweet and sappy in your ovulation phase, is the time to say, babe, you always tell me you're going to take out the trash, but I have to remind you. And that sweet little sugary voice you're going to use is going to get the job done. As if you wait a couple of weeks in your luteal phase and you're like, I always have to tell you to take out the trash, it's going to be a little less impactful and productive.
I love that explanation, because so many times it's like, a lot of times, especially I think when we grew up, we were shamed. Oh, you're just PMSing. Oh, look at that. Like, it was such a negative connotation. And the fact that you're able to turn that and act, and it's real, because our hormones are real. And because of that, I think we should play to that. And I've never thought of that before, ever. And you mentioned,
it's amazing.
Something in the bio that you had is that if you use this cycle, you can increase your income by 30%.
Oh my gosh. There was this study of exotic dancers that they earned way more during their ovulation phase than they did in their other phases. And Alex, the founder, basically started the app because she was earning more in her health coaching business during her ovulation phase. So yes, you're more attractive, you're more fluent, you get your point across so much more fluidly than you do in the other phases. And so using your ovulation time to make connections and to get out there and to do podcasts and to do Zoom calls and happy hours and all of those type of events that you're not going to want to do on day 1 or day 2, wait until day 14. And the beauty of syncing your life to your cycle is you can map it all out and see it and forecast it ahead of time and be like, okay, I'm going to make sure all the events for this week are going to be outside of the house. I'm going to look cute. My skin's going to be glowy. My hair is going to flow right. And people are going to want to talk to me and be around me. And you can plan your life accordingly. And another thing about the luteal phase, before we finish that one, if this is another permission slip, during your luteal phase, you need 89 to 289 more calories. And so we feel like we're binge eating and we're rage cleaning when your body's like, I need more calories. Like, I'm about to shed the whole lining of an organ. I got to beef up and be ready for this. And so knowing that you need a whole extra meal or 2 like extra snacks during the day is going to support what's about to happen in the next week or so, and planning accordingly. You're not going to like binge a bunch of mini Snickers at night as you're, trying to fall asleep. So that was the last thing I wanted to say about the luteal phase. But yeah, this is kind of like biohacking, right?
That's totally biohacking. And it makes me feel better to know that I was always craving so much more. It's because I never knew. I thought it was just, I don't even know what I thought, but the
You
fact,
thought you were crazy. You thought you were hormonal. And also the luteal phase is the time that we are the closest in line with male hormones. And so our estrogen is at its lowest and our testosterone is at its highest. So we're more like a man in the week before a period. And that's the time that we just can't be dealt with. And we're just so difficult. And yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting too.
that's really cool. So how do you help clients then? What do you do?
Oh my gosh. So we are the Agenda Period. We have an app and it teaches you all of the things I just said. And because most period tracking apps are like, hey, your period's coming. Hey, you're fertile. And ours is like, hey, you're a different person every week. Let us show you what that means and what to do with it. Our app will sync to your Google Calendar. So each phase, there'll be like a ribbon across that week and let you know this is your planning week. This is your wrap it up week. This is your get out there week. And it is like a deep dive into the phases. And it's kind of like your cycle bestie. It's like, oh, hey, this is where you are today. Make sure that you do this, 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 and this. And if you're tracking any symptoms in our app, we have a menstrual marketplace and you can shop right in the app of female founded brands that support the symptoms that you're saying that you're tracking. And when we work one-on-one with clients, we do take a deep dive into each of the phases. We line up all the areas of their life, relationship, work, parenting, personal life. We line it all up and put things where they belong because there's a time and a place for everything. But once you know, then you can act accordingly. So that's what we do.
That is so cool because it makes you look forward to the phases of your period. Like, oh, okay,
Yes.
this week I get to do this. Okay, this week I get to do this instead of feeling like you're just wandering in the darkness and all of a sudden, okay, now I feel horrible or now I'm bleeding, right?
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
that's
Exactly. And
cool.
we're just it's a reclamation of sorts. A lot of people think this is like some new thing and our ancestors were doing this. But we just really got away from it, from moving indoors and using technology and things like that. Because the only other thing that's every 28 days is the moon. And so societies for thousands of years were synced up to the moon
Mhm.
because we were outside. And once we've moved inside, we've moved to a 24-hour clock, which
Oh,
male's hormone cycle every 24 hours and ours is every 28 days. And so they have each of these
wow.
phases kind of throughout the day. Like when your husband or partner comes home at like 8 or 9 and they just go sit in the pot for like 45 minutes and they just grunt and have no conversation. They're in their luteal phase. This is time for them to rest. And their testosterone is like super high first thing in the morning. So a lot of times they want morning sex or they're working out really early in the morning because their testosterone's at its peak. They have another peak in the evening around when we've, as a society, decided happy hour should be. And it's all based on the circadian rhythm of a man when a lot of the frustration we feel, especially as business owners, especially as business women in corporate America or wherever, we feel the need to show up like men do. And that's where our struggle and our strife comes in, is because we're not built that way. We can't do the same thing every day and expect the same results. And that's where the frustration comes in. It's like, I was killing it in the gym last week, but this week I'm struggling. I don't even want to work out. I must suck. I'm off my goals. I should never work out again. Because we're trying to be like them. They can do the same thing every day. They move the same way every day and we don't. And unlocking that has just been like, it's been game changer for my relationship, for my business. Yeah.
I had no idea. I guess I've
Yeah.
just like this is a whole world that I can go down a rabbit hole and probably obsess over because I do that a lot.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
get a good subject and I have to find everything out about it. And this is one of those things because I actually have that conversation with my husband and I love him dearly, right? But
Oh my gosh.
how can he come home and sit on the couch and watch sports all the time? Like not even the teams that he roots for. It's just
Yeah.
any sports team. And
Yeah.
actually we got in a heated discussion, right? I'm like, why, how can you watch so much football? Like these aren't
Yeah.
even teams you care about. He's like, who says I don't care about it? And I'm like, because you don't root for them. Well, who says I don't? I'm like, oh my gosh,
Oh
okay.
gosh.
But
And
and
they'll watch like reruns of a game that they've seen
yes,
already. And they can cite off some 18-year-olds stats from Minnesota that played for blah blah. I'm like, dude,
I
do you
know.
know when your cousin's birthday is? Because I do.
Well, and in fairness, I think he should be one of those commentators because he always says it. And then the commentator, it's really weird. The
Yeah.
kid has a talent, and I'm not taking that away. And it's his joy, so I don't want to take it away. But it makes sense. Like he can eat pork chops and beans every single day. And I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
need variety. He goes, how can you
Oh
do
my
that?
gosh.
So now it all makes sense. It's like
It
Groundhog
does.
is they're doing what we do in a month, they're doing in a day. That makes sense.
Yes. And we think that we're crazy because we see the look on their face reflected back to us when last week you coming in and slapping my butt while I was cooking was the cutest thing in the world. And this week I'm overtouched, I'm overstimulated. What are you thinking? And they're like, that worked last week. Like,
I know, poor guys. They try. All I want to do is be loved and and appreciated and told.
coachable, but we have to know first, right? And so, yeah, I made this little tool, and it like sticks on the mirror in the bathroom between where me and my husband brush our teeth, and it's like a window cling, and it's a little arrow. Here, I'll show you the
Yeah.
prototype,
Well,
and it moves around, and it tells him where I am, and he like consults the sticker every day because he wants to know which version of me he's getting, and I
that's
don't have
cool.
to explain it. So yeah, it's just knowledge. It's so empowering, and it's really deepened our connection. And it's like we sync all of our business tasks to our cycle monthly and then annually. Knowing when to launch something, like launching something in the winter. We always think new year, new you, and this is when I'm going to start my new, online course or whatever business you have, and that's not the best time to do that during actual winter
Mhm.
and your personal winter. And so knowing that is, again, it just unlocks so much potential, and it kind of leans into the whole do less theory. We feel like we are hustle and grind and capitalism and we have to, but knowing that there's a time where my body and my brain are going to be like super efficient to do certain things, it's like it's freedom. It's very freeing.
So, I know a lot of times if women work together, sometimes they cycle together, right? True, right?
So true. My partner and I, she and I are synced up at the same time
Okay.
for 3 cycles now. And when we're both super luteal, we just show up we have daily Zoom calls, and we both just show up like staring at each other like, I don't no, no, that's dumb. That's stupid. I don't. And we were just saying like we have to get off the same schedule. Like I don't know how this happened, but we are on the same schedule, and we got to get off of it because I need her to be ovulatory when I'm luteal and vice versa.
So how do you sync your business? Because say that you have multiple people, and you say that you sync your business to the cycle. Is it the cycle of winter, spring, summer, fall, or is it the cycle of you and your hormones?
Oh, I love that. Both actually. We do quarterly sit downs and say, okay, during this season of the year, we're going to make sure that we launch this, or we do our outreach for that, or we attend things. Like
Mhm.
summertime is when we like to be out at expos and getting face to face and talking to people. But then also on a more micro level, we do sync up our tasks
Mhm.
to our cycles. So she'll know, hey, I'm going to be luteal next week. Like right now is the time for me to be frolicking in the fields and out talking to people and recording podcasts. Next week, I'm going to wrap up X, Y, and Z with the projects, and we can kind of map it out that way. And the beauty of our app syncing to our Google calendars, we can see where each other are. And any fractional C-suite employees that we have, male and female, we share that and have those conversations. And it's super normalizing. It's super. You were talking about football. My husband's a football coach in Texas. And if you know about football in Texas, yes, like
Yeah.
it's a religion, right? And I'll hear him on the phone talking to a coaching buddy saying, dude, I think she's in her luteal phase. It sounds like she needs some me time. Like, take the kids to the park. She sounds luteal. And I was like, oh, are you coaching? Like, are you
What a
period?
good guy. That's fantastic.
to help his buddy out, but you can't do that if you don't know the information, right? So yeah, it's a cool thing.
So how do people find out more about this? Because this is super intriguing.
It is so, so cool. We are the Agenda Period everywhere. The Agenda Period on Instagram. Our website is www.theagendaperiod.com. Download our app. We are launching the Modern Red Tint this week. And are you familiar with the red tint from like indigenous cultures?
No, I hate to say that, but
well, no. It's okay. Again, there's so much period shame and stigma that we just block it all up.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about. Yes, where they
yes, so
put them.
Yes, the women on the village, when they're on their bleed, they go to the red tent. And the messaging around why this happened has really shifted away from why truly this happened. Because if you remember, your menstrual phase is the time that you're supposed to be resting and not doing things. So this wasn't like, let's ostracize them all and send them because they're dirty and unclean. This is, okay, they're not supposed to be doing the housework and they're not supposed to be doing all these things. Let them go and bleed, and they're going to come back. So imagine a tent full of women who are super highly intuitive right now, who are leaning into their body's need to rest, who are journaling and, introspective. This is where a lot of the village's issues were solved in this modern red tent. Wow. They would come out follicular, ready to do the things that they were just kind of bleeding on. And so we're recreating and reclaiming that notion that women and bleeders need a place to go, a place where this is all normalized, where you're learning and where you're coming together and like, I don't know, changing the world, because we're all getting together in this amazingly feminine space to kind of reclaim our cyclical superpowers.
Wow, this makes me want to just go shout to the world, it's okay, you're normal, and
it's okay. I
use
literally do that. Like I shouted over a stall at a teenage girl who said, I just started my period. I'm like, it's okay. It's just a period. I have an app.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
It's such a good thing, because in a world where women are being heard now, and that's why we talk about Unbreakable Mompreneurs, it's not to shame them and put people into a box, but it's to say, hey, you know what, it's good, and you can have everything in different phases and seasons of your life, obviously, but it's okay. And it's interesting, I had somebody message me because we were talking about if they were going to come on my podcast, and she's said, well, I just need you to know, full disclosure, I hate that word, mompreneurs. And so she sent me a link to her article where she talked about it. So I read it and I'm like, you know what, I want you to be on my podcast even more now.
I love that.
Because I love different perspectives. And I think she and I are saying the same thing. We just have different viewpoints. I think we're both trying to celebrate women and celebrate how we do it. And so, yeah, I put the title Mompreneurs to it, and I'm proud of that. So
I love it. We call ourselves periodpreneurs. Okay. So
see, that's fantastic.
Yes, and we're both girl moms, and we're so motivated to just create a more literate society. We just want you to know what's happening with your body, because a lot of the ways that we are treated medically, politically, socially is we're not informed. And so we're consenting to things without information. And that's what we're here to do, is to empower and inform.
That's fantastic. Thank you for doing that. Okay, let's change topics for a second. And let's talk about being a mom. So how many kids do you have?
I have one and done, Charisse. I don't know how people do this more than one.
I had 6. So, yes, and I love them all.
Oh, you're my hero.
But so is it a boy or girl that you have?
Girl. She's an 8-year-old little girl.
My youngest is 9. And so when it comes to being a mom, what type of advice would you give moms who have children? Obviously, because of moms. But what advice?
Well, surrounding menstrual information.
Anything.
Okay. My big advice is talk to them before they're embarrassed.
Okay.
Like bring the stuff up before you, and you all know, you all watch your kids develop, and you know, like certain things you could do when they were 3 that now that they're 8, she'd be mortified if you did it. So as early as possible to start talking about things and normalizing things, like calling things exactly what they are. Like my daughter knows the difference between her vulva and her vagina, because they're two very different areas. They're in the same region, but if something's wrong with your vagina, that's very different if there's something wrong with your vulva. So normalizing, using proper terminology, and talk to them before they're embarrassed, on using age appropriate language. But and if they're asking you, that means they're not embarrassed. And so don't tell them, you'll wait till you're older, or talk to your dad, have the conversation. You may say, wait, let me look it up and find a better way to say this. But if they ask, answer, use proper terminology, and talk to them before they're too embarrassed.
I love that advice, because it is so true. And it's even, I can't believe I'm going to admit this on a podcast, but whatever, if you've listened
keep it real.
But, there's certain times where you talked about not wearing a bra or an underwire bra or something, because you can get very swollen and sore. And those are the times where sometimes my daughter would like lean over the elbow and you're like, oh, and so it's a joke between us, like, and so she just kind of giggles, but it's true. And she's like, Mom, what happens? And so that's where I'm like, okay, this time of the month, there's certain things that happen. And so I'm sore. And she's like, I'm sorry. Yes, no, it's fine.
Aww.
Just be aware.
Because we think we're protecting them from growing up too fast. But like that example you just gave, that built empathy in that moment. And we want our children to have empathy and show empathy for others, and knowing that this is a normal thing. So when she experiences it, I remember my mom feeling that way. I should make sure that this is just, it's beautiful. Yeah. Open and honesty, transparency. It's not this weird, shameful thing. We all got here because of a missed period. So
that's very true. So true. Well, Anna, you have been a delight, and I love, this is a topic I've not had on before, so I'm so glad that you're able to come on. So thank you.
Well, listen, I will come back anytime you invite me. This was so much fun.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Moms, celebrate your hormones, celebrate your period. Look into it. It's called the agenda period, right?
Yes, check us out, the agenda period. We're fired up, and we're starting a revolution, apparently.
Good. Well, go out and make it a great day.
Bye.
Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.